Welcome to Multi-Turn Conversations. This lesson is part of Module 05, Chat Model Fine-Tuning. Let's get started. Let's now look at Lesson 5.4, Multi-Turn Conversation Training. Here we can see the multi-turn flow. Let's now look at Overview. Here we can see the context window usage. Real conversations aren't single questions and answers. They're ongoing dialogues where context matters. Learn to train models that maintain coherent, contextual conversations across multiple turns, remember what was said, and respond appropriately throughout extended interactions. Duration, 90 minutes. Difficulty, intermediate to advanced. Let's now look at learning objectives. Here we can see the context compression. By the end of this lesson, you will create multi-turn conversation datasets, handle conversation history and context, train models for dialogue coherence, manage context, window constraints, test multi-turn conversation quality, handle conversation breakdowns gracefully. Let's now look at single turn versus multi-turn. Here we can see the multi-turn training. Let's now look at single turn, what we've done so far. Here we can see the context truncation strategy. Here's the JSON code for this section, starting with characteristics, one question, one answer, no conversation history. Each interaction is independent. Let's now look at multi-turn, what we're learning now. Here we can see the conversation history format. Here's the JSON code for this section, starting with sys. Characteristics, multiple back and forth exchanges, references, previous messages, it, what about, maintains conversation thread, context-aware responses. Let's now look at why multi-turn is challenging. Here we can see the multi-turn eval scenarios. Let's now look at challenge 1, context awareness. Model must remember what was discussed earlier, user's intent and goals, information already provided, questions that need follow-up. Example of failure. Here's the bash code for this section, starting with user. Explain Python dictionaries. Let's now look at challenge 2, pronoun resolution. User says, how do I use it? Model must know, what is it? The tool mentioned 2 turns ago? The function from last response? The concept discussed earlier? Training teaches pronouns, concepts mapping. Let's now look at challenge 3, maintaining personality. Personality must stay consistent across all turns. Here's the bash code for this section, starting with turn 1. Oh wow, that's awesome. Enthusiastic. Let's now look at challenge 4, avoiding repetition. Here's the bash code for this section. Starting with turn 1. Python is great for beginners. Model must know when to reference versus when to move forward. Let's now look at creating multi-turn datasets. Let's now look at example 1, tech support, 3 turns. Here's the JSON code for this section. Starting with What makes this good multi-turn data? Context tracking. Each response builds on previous. Pronoun usage, it, that, the old USB port. Situational awareness. Remembers the error message, solution tried. Progressive problem solving. Gathers info, suggests solution, confirms success, natural flow, feels like real support interaction. Let's now look at example 2, creative coach, 5 turns. Here's the JSON code for this section, starting with what makes this excellent multi-turn data? Building on ideas progressively. Each turn develops the concept further. Celebrating progress. Great insight. Oh yes, right? Tracking conversation thread. References your world. This idea. Oath-breaking. Personality maintained. Enthusiastic throughout all 5 turns. Natural topic progression. Problem. Exploration. Specific idea. Excitement. Next steps. Let's now look at multi-turn data guidelines. Let's now look at how many turns? Turn count, difficulty, use case. Soy test, 2-3 turns, easy, basic follow-ups, clarifications, 4-5 turns, medium, standard conversations, problem solving, 6-8 turns, hard, complex topics, extended support, 9+ turns, very hard, deep consultations, long form coaching. Recommendation, mix of 2-3 turn, 60%, 4-5 turn, 30%, 6+ turn, 10%. Let's now look at turn structure patterns. Let's now look at pattern 1, progressive disclosure. Here's the bash code for this section. Starting with turn 1, user asks broad question. Used for tech support, consulting, troubleshooting. Let's now look at pattern 2, collaborative development. Here's the bash code for this section. Starting with turn 1, user presents initial idea. Used for the creative work, brainstorming, planning. Let's now look at pattern 3, educational deepening. Here's the bash code for this section. Starting with turn 1, user asks basic question. Used for tutoring, teaching, explanations. Let's now look at building multi-turn training data. Let's now look at method 1, manual creation. More turns, 200+ conversations. Time investment, try 5 to 10 minutes per conversation. Target, 200-300 conversations, 20-40 hours. Let's now look at method 2, synthetic generation with base model. Generate assistant response extract, assistant part. Generate user follow-up or end conversation. You'd need to manually add follow-ups or use another model. Generate multiple conversations, 100+ starting queries. Then manually review and edit for quality. Let's now look at method 3, conversation interpolation. Start with single turn, then add middle turns. Original single turn, expand to multi-turn by adding clarifying exchange. This method, easier than starting from scratch. Let's now look at training on multi-turn data. Let's now look at no special configuration needed. Same training as before. The model learns from the conversation structure. Load model, add LoRa. Load multi-turn dataset format data, same as before. Train, same settings. Train. That's it. The model learns from the conversation structure automatically. Let's now look at testing multi-turn conversations. Let's now look at interactive testing script. Load fine-tuned model. Add user message. Generate response. Extract. Assistant response. Add to history display. Let's now look at multi-turn evaluation rubric. Here's the bash code for this section. Starting with multi-turn conversation quality. Let's now look at common multi-turn issues. Let's now look at issue 1, context forgetting. Symptom, model forgets earlier parts of conversation. Example. Here's the bash code for this section. Starting with turn 1, I'm building a web app with Flask. Solutions. Increase max CQ length to 4096 or 8192. Add more examples where model references earlier turns. Reduce conversation length in training data if too long. Let's now look at issue 2, repetitive responses. Symptom, model repeats same information. Example. Here's the bash code for this section. Starting with turn 2, Python is easy to learn. Solutions. Add examples showing varied phrasing. Train model to move conversation forward. Use temperature, 0.7 during inference. Let's now look at issue 3, losing thread. Symptom, conversation topic drifts unintentionally. Example, here's the bash code for this section. Starting with turn 1, how do I train a model? Solutions, add more focused conversation examples. Ensure follow-ups stay on topic in training data. Use higher quality base model. Let's now look at complete multi-turn training notebook. Save as notebooks 04 chat models 03 multi-turn training.pip.nb. Cell 1 setup CD. cell 2, load model. Let's now look at lesson checklist. Here's the bash code for this section, starting with multi-turn training checklist. Let's now look at key takeaways. 1. Multi-turn requires conversation-aware data, not just Q&A pairs. 2. Context tracking is learned from examples. More multi-turn data, seared better. 3. Max sequence length matters. Longer conversations need more tokens. 4. Test interactively. Automated tests miss conversation flow issues. 5. Balanced turn count. Mix short and long conversations. 6. Consistency is harder. Personality must persist across turns. Let's now look at what's next. Multi-turn mastered. Now let's explore advanced techniques. Continue to Lesson 5.5, Advanced Chat Techniques. Let's now look at additional resources. Dialogue state tracking, multi-turn conversation models, context management strategies. Your model can now have real conversations. Level up with advanced techniques. That wraps up multi-turn conversations. Well done on completing this lesson. See you in the next one.